There we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Who Corner to Corner live stream. I'm not sure really what's going on here, but it's a lot of fun. There we are. We're all back on screen. Don't worry, we'll get this running absolutely perfectly next time.
No, it's good. Disturbingly, I would just like to protest that I've been relegated to special guest star, and I'm basically the Beryl Reid.
You really are the Beryl Reid of
the entire show. So,
yes, I was thinking.
But we love you for it.
Your status.
Yeah,
your status needs to be changed, really, doesn't it? Yeah.
Well, I think we should.
I think probably is the best.
Upgraded.
We should talk about that with our legal team. I think. I mean, if you want a special appearance and all that kind of thing, then that's another discussion completely. But. Anyways, welcome everybody to the Who Corner to Corner live stream in June. Yes. It's an incredibly warm evening, and we're all very stressed because technical issues and whatnot, but who cares? It's Friday, and we are here to talk about our very favourite stuff, Doctor Who, character options, all of that kind of stuff. We've got loads of questions queued up, and I believe you guys are ready to go. Is that correct?
Yes. Oh, someone says Al is really quiet.
Is Al really quiet? I think he's just generally quite quiet anyway.
Not generally. I'm just sorry. That sounded like a euphemism, but I'm just at a Tesco's delivery, and I'm maybe a bit shell shocked from that. But
my technical issues are 7 years old.
Yeah, I think actually everybody's levels are quite high. Where we can't really adjust the levels in here. It's all down to our individual microphones. So Maybe you need to get closer to your mic. And
I see. They were saying I was technically quiet, not actually just.
You're not. Audio-wise, LOL.
Audio-wise,
look, it came up. Ooh.
It did. That's because I pressed the button. I remember to press the button now. You see.
I don't know why I keep doing that.
Jeff is obviously very, very easily overwhelmed by modern technology.
You have technical knowledge of this, Paul. The way you're going on.
He's convinced us so far, hasn't he? So thank you for joining, everyone. We've got a few people in his house already, so we'll just chat for a short while before we start doing some questions. But I think tonight it would be nice to talk about some other things, not just Who stuff. I think so. Paul, shall we start with a few Who questions? And I think, hold on one second. So. JMJHC has been commenting in the comments box there, funnily enough. And I've also had a question from Jack, which was sent to me via Scott from Gallifrey Customs. So as Jack is watching, hello, it seems like we appropriate to kick off with his question. So this is for you, Al. Is there any chance that we'll get a Planet of Fire Ainley re-release or a Curator re-release?
Ooh.
Good
question. That's a good opener.
Good one to start with. Put him right on the spot.
Nice one, Jack. Gallifrey Customs is here. Hello, Scott. We are doing some of your questions that you sent me.
Yeah, the Planet of Fire Ainley. That's a very good question. I can't. Guys out there actually probably have to correct me, but I think it's only ever been released once. Is that correct? You can come back. We did try the one with the sort of slightly silvered face, but I think that was only ever a prototype and it didn't really work. I suspect that a lynch mob would come for me with pitchforks, sort of saying, "You'll put out a." Planet of Fire, but you won't put out a proper Ainley. But it might be worth the pitchforks. It is a rather nice sculpt, and like some of the recent ones we've done, it would be interesting to see what that one looked like in the sort of base plastic with the sort of new sort of technique for doing the deco. So yeah. And I'm looking at stuff for B&M for next year, so I'm thinking.
That's exciting.
Curator's an interesting one. I haven't had many requests for a release of the Curator.
When people ask you about that, do you go, "Who knows"?
Well, the curator is very special to me because it was the one time I got to go down to Rye and actually scan Tom Baker in person with Ed and literally spend the afternoon with the guy who in my eyes can do no wrong. So it's a very special figure for me. That's an interesting one because I think without the Gallifrey Falls painting, it kind of feel we haven't ever released it in that format. But again, another one that would be good to see what would happen if we didn't have it all slathered in paint. So
you could do a fourth Doctor and a curator.
Well, now you're drawing a link directly between them, aren't you? So you know.
Yes.
Who knows? Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
I might have some plans for the fourth Doctor for next year, so I might just sidestep that one.
Yeah, you're going to sidestep that one.
He's going to go a little bit wee.
Knock that one in the touch. Yeah.
Trouble is, everyone goes, "Oh, we've got tons of fourth Doctor stuff," and we do because he's my favourite, obviously.
He's a very popular Doctor.
Yeah. There we go.
There we go.
And hello, Scott, by the way.
Yeah, hi Scott. Scott is tuning in from his holes. So
his what?
His holes. His holidays.
He's in Romania.
Oh, his holes. I thought you said his holes. What was he doing in a hole? Who goes and sits in a hole? Hole in the ground or something?
He might be in a hole.
He's like a hermit.
He had some brilliant stuff up on Facebook.
He really did.
He's been like a bear sanctuary, and my initial reaction was, "Oh God, that looks terrible. Those poor bears." And then suddenly I actually read what it was about, and they're actually, basically rescuing them and helping them. So I got it completely the wrong way around.
Yes, yeah, you sort of automatically assume, don't you? But it's not necessarily the case. Let's divert for a minute. Where are you both going on holiday this year? Let's just agree to do Ainley as a B&M next year. It makes sense.
It makes sense.
Bunder's rat.
I like how people do that. Like Gallifrey base will just be alive next week. They're doing an Ainley. They're doing a Planet of Fire Ainley.
They're doing an Ainley. Another Ainley. Ah, yes. Yeah. Fella's not around to make the credits on it.
Where am I going on holiday? I'm actually going Lanzarote, which I haven't been to for about... nearly 30 years.
Really?
It was a sort of...
Lanzarote?
We'll go somewhere sort of not particularly exotic, but as far away from family as we can possibly get.
Oh, hang on, we've had a quick
brilliant
message.
Thanks, JJM. Hey,
JJM,
guys, can't stay. We'll watch later, but just let me get to say hello, and I really love the pod. Keep up the good work. And Al's work, of course. There you go.
I like the Ainley with a Perry comment. That's quite cool. I like that.
Indeed. So if you're going to Lanzarote, then that's very much on brand, isn't it, I suppose, given that it was the location for Planet of Fire.
Yes.
You can revisit all those places and reenact those critical scenes.
It's all come up in one live stream. Lanzarote, Perry, the Master. What can we say?
Indeed, you can interact that famous scene. Just strip down to your trunks, dive in and rescue somebody.
Is on there, Bunsrat, who
that's it.
Is a rather splendid chap from Kirkcaldy, which is where I hail originally.
Yeah, I know.
In the Kingdom of Fife. So I grew up in Kirkcaldy, and I went to the West School, and I lived opposite the Beveridge Park, and it was brilliant. It was one of the best times of my life, and he is there, so he gives me an update on what's happening at Kirkcaldy, which I actually quite appreciate.
Yeah.
In fact, if I go to Edinburgh soon, sorry, I'll cut you off, but my plan is to at some point go back to Scotland this year, and actually I might meet him for a coffee or something.
That would be nice. My gran was from Fife area, and
whereabouts?
I'm not sure actually. I'll have to find out. But my mum used to go.
Deeply.
Yeah, no, it was just
no
Fife.
idea where she lived.
There you go.
I never. No. So that was when she was young, not when she was, older. She lived down near me then. But my mum would go up there in the summer holidays, and they used to pack the kids off for 6 weeks and stuff. And that was
Scotland a lot.
Yeah, and that was part of the reason my mum moved back up to Scotland after the divorce, because she wanted to be back up there because she liked it so much.
Sensible.
Scott says it's 11:37 here. It was amazing. They're in huge acres of forest, which is fenced off to protect them. We just happened to be into the area the bears all gathered for feeding time.
That explains it all.
That sounds good, yeah.
That explains everything.
Yeah.
We've got a good one here.
Go on.
But
we still need a Barbara to go with Ian. Cardigan, Sarah Jane repaint with new head and shoes is all she needs, Al. Why can't you make that happen?
Yeah. It's a lot, but in my mind, that's Barbara on, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not 100% convinced. I know for the customizers it works, but I'm not 100% convinced.
Not 100% convinced.
To the main point, we do. It would be nice to get the original TARDIS crew complete.
It would,
Susan
yeah.
And Barbara.
A good old Chesterfield. We all need one of them.
With a black and white variant as well.
Well, the problem by doing that
Do
is
them in monochrome.
suddenly you're into completist territory, and then you're into the second Doctor era, and oh my god, there's so many to do. Sticking
Paul,
heads on everything.
Yes.
Where are you on holiday?
Me, currently my next holiday is I'm staying reasonably local actually. I'm going to Wales. I'm going to Fishguard for a few days, a week or so that'd be quite nice.
That sounds good. Is that near Cardiff?
It's miles away from Cardiff. Cardiff's like the first stop of many on the way. It's basically go to Cardiff and then carry on going west until you literally fall off into the Atlantic, pretty much.
Well,
Do you know, I love Wales.
Stop off at Cardiff.
Absolutely beautiful. It's the closest thing to
I'm not going to
Scotland
stop
they
off
have
at
in the
Cardiff.
south.
That's not going to happen.
No, go and have a word at the studio.
Yeah.
Get on.
Excuse me, Russell. We want a word. When's Doctor Who coming back, eh?
Yeah.
He'll shut the door. I don't know. I've got no bloody idea. No idea. Go away, you weirdo.
I'm not listening to any of this. So, yeah.
If Call the Midwife can get a press release about its update about what's going on, then so could the Doctor.
Is Jenny Agutter still in that?
I think so. Yeah.
Is she?
Yeah,
she
my
what,
wife
Call the
watches
Midwife?
it.
Is
Yeah.
she in that?
Yeah.
Blimey. Do you know, that's one series I've never seen a single episode of. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but
me too.
it just does not in any way kind of appeal to me to watch it at all. I could live my life happily without it.
It's quite good. It's one of those shows you could just dip in and out of it, and it's quite a
doesn't ring my bell. Doesn't ring my bell.
It's quite emotionally led.
Of All Creatures Great and Small.
I quite like All Creatures Great and Small, actually.
I love All Creatures Great and Small.
Yeah, that's a good fun. That's an emotional program at times.
Fact, one of my guiltiest pleasures on YouTube is watching a chap from Scotland, again, called the Hoof GP.
Yeah.
Who basically just spends every video is trimming cattle's feet. And
that's brilliant. That's hours of entertainment right there, isn't it?
My God, it's brilliant. What's that for it? But all I can recommend people is if you're fed up of sci-fi, the Hoof GP. He's the guy.
The Hoof GP.
That is finding a niche.
within a niche.
In the extreme, and probably monetising it quite well.
It is, isn't it?
Maybe
Before we move on from that, though,
cutting our fingernails on here.
Don't do that. Al, I have to ask you though, All Creatures Great and Small, which do you prefer, the old or the newer series?
Do you know, I watched the new series and I really liked it.
It's really good, isn't it? Annoyingly so.
Annoyingly so, and weirdly, I kind of had the hots for Mrs. Hall, which never happened in the old.
Yeah, Mrs. Hall has kind of undergone a bit of a transformation from the 1980s series, hasn't she?
Mrs. Hall of old.
She was quite literally the definition of what we used to call a battle axe in those days, and now she's got a personality, she's got a history, she's got a son, she's a likable, lovable character, and we all want to hug her. I think.
She's brilliant. But in fact, weirdly, it's the I can't remember the wife of James Herrick. What's she called? I should know this. Helen.
Helen, yes.
So Helen for me, Helen's the weak character in that whole series. She just doesn't seem to have the charisma.
What in the new series?
Yeah. But the rest of it, I thought the casting was absolutely brilliant.
I mean, Siegfried is Siegfried, right? He's brilliant. He's just like what's his name?
I'm still reading the comments. So
yes, let's go back to the comments. So Gallifrey Customs has said, my figure-related question: would you ever do a Maestro or Neil Patrick Harris toy maker figure?
And the toy maker review said he'd like a toy maker figure of themselves.
Yes, that's coming up. In fact, there it is, Jeff. There you go.
Oh, sorry. Actually, I've got a question. Al, when are you going to scan us to for like unit soldiers or something?
No, that's not a problem.
I'll be a blobby. I don't mind. I'm up for
that. A face on the
one-eyed blobbing.
On his backside.
That's you and your paving stone crush.
So there's an interesting question in the comments. Was the new 14th Doctor head completely new tooling?
Oh yes, we missed that one, didn't we? There it is.
Become a glasses head. So the answer is yes, it was. What happened? I've explained before a couple of times. I think on Galley Base, but basically, what happens is when they translate the digital image to a lower res or a different res file that they then use to cut the steel and make the electrode. There's a translation between these two bits of software, and it got screwed up the first time round. So I didn't like the head. I asked them to recast it, which means remake the tool in steel, which they did. So it is a new head. Can it be made into the glasses head? No, it can't, because with that particular type of tooling, you can't go back and change it.
Can't.
Unfortunately, you can't go and add where it doesn't exist. So so it's a case of yes and no.
So yes and no.
Yes and no.
Equally,
would you ever do
at
a
the same
Maestro
time.
or a Neil Patrick Harris figure? I think possibly at some point. I loved his. I liked his interpretation in the show.
Well, that's all right then.
And that's all right.
That's all right then.
Hi,
Liam.
That's what I mean. That bit was fantastic. I felt he was sort of eliminated fairly.
Well, the toy maker.
He was like a level 1 boss, wasn't he, on a game?
Yeah.
Out easy.
And So, but I mean, it's interesting. I think that whole ethos of the gods thing is interesting, because I think when you sort of say, it's gods, it's not really gods as such. It's not omnipotent beings. These are just celestials in my mind, much like the Enlightenment ones were, which is they're kind of, it's like the Roman gods. There's a god for emptying the bins, and there's a god for the washing up, and there's a god for so he's the god of games, and so I like that, and I think that's fun.
So it was defeated by a game of catch, wasn't it?
Maestro didn't float my boat.
He didn't like Maestro. No.
Well, it's the stuff you like and stuff you don't. Sorry, excuse me. I thought that was a very odd episode, and quite an
the giggle.
Yeah. The Maestro one.
The Maestro. The Devil's Cord.
No, the giggle I love.
The
Maestro one was slightly odd. It's odd from the fact that you're in 1963. The first Doctor's over there, the 7th Doctor's over there, and probably the 8th Doctor's somewhere in living up in his house in Paternoster Street or Charlotte Street, wherever he was. It was just a very odd place to set that whole story when there's so many doctors basically in the vicinity. And what were they all doing?
That's the problem we have now with 14 sitting around in Chiswick or whatever,
well, he's always going to be there, isn't he, I suppose?
Yeah.
Until he disappears off somewhere, presumably
Chiswick or Muswell Hill.
Somewhere like that.
Somewhere like that.
Somewhere. Yeah. I just do what I do, which is just ignore all that completely.
it didn't happen.
And life is much easier.
I think you have to a degree. Yeah. So yeah, the Maestro character for me wasn't, but that I know it was liked by a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a weird one with me. I first time round I watched it, I thought it was all right actually. I kind of enjoyed it. But then the second time I watched it, it all seemed to fall apart, and I just thought, well, there's nothing here. There's no, there is a story, but there's nothing really hanging the story together other than just we're at the Beatles and there's no music. There was some nice moments in it, but it never felt like it was. Well, it felt like it was going to go somewhere. And it kept building up these crescendos. There was a brilliant moment in the middle where there was almost no sound, and there was a kind of a war as Maestro and the Doctor were sort of stalking each other, and I quite liked that bit. But somehow it just, for me, just felt like it just seemed to fritter everything away, and then just build. And what it did build up to was that song and dance routine at the end, which is just like, okay, so that's where we're going now, is it? Yeah. Right. It's not what I expected, and not really what I wanted, but.
Music, but
I just
do you know what I in reality I think it was a high concept idea that was very difficult to pull off.
I think it was a high concept idea executed in a lowbrow manner, frankly. That's my reading of it. It was a high concept idea, but I mean they had strangling musical notes coming to life and being somehow able to pull people up and tie them up and strangle them and what have you and stuff like that, which I thought was weird.
That's what I mean.
I don't really
the giggle with the marionette sequence, and there was more potency, and there was more malevolence, and there was more kind of kind of the Doctor's actually in danger here.
Yeah.
Kind of, for me, in the giggle episode than in the other one. But,
so I agree. Yeah. I just want to say I've just commented, but anyone watching who doesn't subscribe to us yet on YouTube or any of our other socials, please do. We're close to 900 subscribers. It would be lovely to
that's quite exciting.
To hit that. So please feel free to. This is sort of a beg.
So
really.
Sparrow
tell your friends.
Okay, let's do a bit of myth busting here. So Sparrow's asked the question if it's true that Billie Piper refused any more figures being made of her, and if that has, what would that mean for a 16th Doctor or a Rose figure as seen? So the myth here. So the honest answer is straight up true. Billie wasn't impressed with her first figure, but I don't think anybody was. I think she was much happier with the second figure. She did, for a very short period after she left Doctor Who, put a stall on any more Doctor Who figures just because she wanted to distance herself, as I understand it, from the series, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But that didn't continue, and there has been Rose figures ad infinitum for a very long time. So as far as I'm aware, there is no issue with a Billie Piper figure in any format, be it our stuff or anybody else's. That's as I understand it. That's what happened. So we didn't even need it at the point where there was a stop put on it. We never had a third figure to come out that was kind of put on hold, as it were. That didn't apply to us because there was nothing in the works.
And I imagine
that's why I understand it. So she didn't like the first figure. Don't think anybody thinks we did our best job on that. Did like the second figure. As far as I know, again, no issue. It was a much better figure. I think everybody agrees. There was a stall or a stop on any new Rose figures, because I remember talking to various people that did, like, it was Design Works guys that were doing other stuff. But it doesn't apply now. So, yeah.
So, and also, I would think whatever she is now, I still don't buy the thing that she's not the 16th Doctor. But there'd be a contractual thing.
What? She materialises, and the way she materialises and speaks is very much like the Bad Wolf Girl from the 50th anniversary. She manifests fairly specifically in my head as the character from the moment with a very
agreed. Yeah,
with a very particular look. So who knows?
Who knows?
I think it's just a holding pattern till we get to wherever we're going.
Yeah. Dr. Figure Mania Please, a 60th Donna figure, I beg you.
I beg you, capital letters, all caps.
He has actually put in caps.
That's quite serious.
We're going to need to see a picture of you begging.
No, we're not.
We don't need that.
All I
Send it to Jeff privately.
There's nothing on the cards for that one currently. I'll be straight up and honest. There's nothing
with the wedding dress.
There's a lot of other stuff on the cards, but there's nothing on the cards for Donna at the moment.
Fair enough.
I think we've got a couple of Donnas. Personally, I don't think we. Yeah, I love the character. Don't get me wrong. I mean, my daughter and I do the whole Doctor and Donna seeing each other through the doors.
Yeah.
All the time. So I get it, but there's no plans.
There's no plans. Okay, so, good to know.
Acquainted Guy says, now that the reality war has been and gone, do you still plan on potentially doing some season 2 figures for next year? Will there be any chance of Belinda, a different 15, Mr. Ring-a-ding-ding, Mr. Ding-a-ling? Please, if that happens, can you accidentally put Ding-a-ling on the box? That would make me happy anyway.
So again, I can't really talk about any new stuff, but I have talked on Gallifrey Base about I would love to do a Belinda. I would love to do you've completely confused it in my head, Jeff. A Mr. Ring-a-ding.
Mr. Ring-a-ding-a-ling-ding.
As a bendy figure, I just think as one of those sort of classic 70s toys.
Stretch Armstrong type.
It'd be
do that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, it could be out of TPR, but it tends to kind of follow. I mean, I can imagine the collector saying, in 2 years' time, oh my, Mr. Ring-a-ding has melted.
Yeah. Mr. Ding has melted. He's just a puddle on the floor now, isn't he? That's all he is.
Ding-a-ling.
Just a little patch of black oil on the floor on the carpet. Can't get that out.
Gallifrey Base will be full of people going, my ding-a-ling has melted.
My ding-a-ling's just a puddle on the floor now. Oh,
yeah, so, I mean, again, it's trading on stuff that's for the future, and, there's a lot of stuff in flux at the moment in terms of, we're putting the proposal together for... Well, not putting it. It is together. We just need to run through it. We're sort of running the budgets and stuff at the moment. So there's stuff in the mix.
Have you ever found yourself sort of in a kind of place where you just don't know what to do next, or is it all pretty well queued up in advance, so you're always rolling from one figure set or figure to another?
No, I have, and in fact that was one of the B&M conundrums this year, which is why again I sort of went on Gallifrey Base and sort of said, what would people like?
Yeah.
Well, I had no idea.
The trouble is it's a can of worms, because as I've always said, part of the problem is with a 60-year back catalogue.
It's a lot, isn't it? It's too much.
100 people on a forum. Who do you want to see, or what figure sets you want to be released, and you will literally not get the same answer. And then it will go from this set re-release, and then literally 10 posts later, it's like, oh, you could change this figure, and you could do this, and you could do that. It's like, well, that's not where B&M is at the moment. B&M is repaints, so it's kind of like, that's B&M.
Yeah. Here's a really good question from, I always mispronounce the name, Bundesrat. How do you say it, Al?
I changed it. I think it's Bundsrat.
Bundesrat.
It could be Bundesrat.
Maybe Bundesrat, you could type it phonetically for us. But he says,
I apologise for these guys. They clearly just can't read.
This is stupid.
Well, it is a Doctor Who related name, and I think it's Bundsrat.
Bundsrat. Okay, I will go for that. So
Neil, if you're there listening,
correct me. Or Al.
Phonetically correct us.
There you go.
He says, do any other character ranges have forums, podcasts, and all the other associated insanity that comes with the Who range? And
insanity.
I will add to that I'm sure there are other ranges of stuff, like Lego, where, for example, where sometimes the developers, get involved with things, but you seem to do an awful lot more, Al, than I imagine other people doing in this kind of field. Todd McFarlane, who does McFarlane Toys, he sometimes does stuff, but I don't think he's, it's kind of what I would call official presentations. He'll be at a show or something and introducing some things, but he's not on forums and stuff, and doing things in the way that you are.
I suppose I fell into it because I am at heart a fan. I think you'd have to be to do the job, but that has got me into hot water previously. that inability to distinguish between my fan head and my business head, and still does to this day. I've said often that Doctor Who, modern Doctor Who certainly, classic Doctor Who I just exempt, but modern Doctor Who has never brought any joy, because no matter what you do, you get shot down or kicked in the teeth or whatever. So there's no joy. It's a job. There's no joy in it. I don't, and when I say that, I don't mean that we don't put passion and effort into it, because I think the toys reflect that there is passion and effort.
Clearly, yes.
But there is no joy at all with modern Doctor Who, because you simply can't win. You simply can't win.
We've talked a bit about this, haven't we? Yeah, and it's, I think because you're putting yourself out there like that, you see more of this. And, I often send you, comments and stuff that people send us where they want to thank you and to show you that, there really is an appreciation for things. But I think it's kind of just the way of it these days, isn't it? People will moan, and you could give them, 20 figures and they're the best figures ever, but there'll still be someone, this isn't right, or you haven't done this, and, you just can't win.
Social media is a double-edged sword. Always has been. In the old days, I'd have blithely been doing whatever the bloody hell I wanted, and
you wouldn't have known what anyone thinks.
Every now and again, somebody would have written a letter to character options up in Leeds, and 2 weeks later, it would have got to me, and they'd have said, "I fucking hate your stuff. What you're doing is shit, and what you should be doing is this, blah blah blah." But now with social media, it's all those levels of I think what you do is great. I think what you do is great, but I think what you do is average, and you could do better. I think what you do is below average, and you could do much better.
Down the ladder.
I think what you do is absolute shit, and frankly, it's like, there's that whole.
It's quite a wide spectrum, isn't it?
It's just and you really can't win. I fall into the same trap every time. Every time there's a release, I go, this is going to be the one. Everyone's going to love it. And the meme goes
but
out.
There's always somebody, isn't
and I'm
there?
like, and we'll do a pod. And I'm literally walking around the department. I'm going, is the CAD ready? We're going to release a pod. We're going to do the pod, blah, blah, blah. Literally 10 comments later, it's like, I'm not buying that shit.
Yeah, why did I bother?
This is an easy pass for me because it's crap. It's like, fucking hell, you can't win.
No. Well, I saw about, the meat pod that you put the... plans out for, people moaning, am I expected to buy a 3D printer for it? No.
Pleasing somebody.
My eldest brother, has a great saying, which is, no good deed goes unpunished.
Yeah.
And there is not a truer word.
That's very true.
There's no truer phrase than that.
You've literally given a free, thing out there, and it's still not, enough for some people.
Why I suspect anybody that produces Doctor Who probably feels very much
take yourself off social media and just concentrate on the job in hand.
Everybody feels entitled to get on
talking of,
and
we've got Star One Props watching. Hello.
I know Star One Props.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
he's a very good friend of mine.
Yeah. Also, I have been vindicated. Bundesrat.
And he's laughing.
Bundesrat, there you go.
Yeah,
Bundesrat came from Bundesrat's uni days. There you go.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of questions out here. We've got one from Gabriel. Should we answer that, actually? Because I think this one pops up a lot in different ways.
I like that name. Gabriel.
Yeah, it's a good one. Wrath Warrior. Any stuff from New Era 60th specials would be so cool. Well, obviously we've just had the Beat the Meep figure set, haven't we? Which is pretty cool. We've just been talking about that.
Well, do you know he's not Beat the Meep, is he? He's just the Meep.
The
That's
Meep,
right.
Yes.
I have to say, and it's funny. You only ever think of these things after you put them out. But Jeff's got a question, but I'm going to finish.
No, I'm pointing at my Meep. Look.
Oh, Jeff's showing the finger.
Yeah.
So
it's mixed signals here.
These things always occur to you after the event because you're so focused on getting stuff out the door and you kind of don't think about it. But what I would have loved to have done was I'd have loved to have done 6 or 10 blue Meeps based on the comic and actually just chuck them into the release and just randomly, like Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory,
like maggots.
Yeah, 6 people just end up with a super ultra rare blue.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
Meat Pod looks fantastic. Well, that is Star One Props. That is Nick that you should thank for that one. I mean, we did work on it together, but he is the CAD genius who pulls that together. And when I go, oh, can you change this little bit? He goes, you said it was wider, and I'm like, yes, I said it was wider yesterday, but I've looked at it again today,
and it's different.
And it's definitely different.
I've just
the
seen
meat pod was good because we got to, the outside of the meat pod is set in stone, but the inside was never developed, so that's where you get to kind of just screw around. And we thought, well, if it is a meat pod and it's a meat ship and it comes from the Roth galaxy, and he'll have his little controls and his seat will be made specifically for him, and he'll have a little set of foot pedals. So we had absolute hoot of a time just designing that pod with the little vector thruster plates underneath.
Yeah, it looks great. I just seen a comment from Owen, who's Hoovian Life. He says, I'm so happy with the Meep pod. And Scott at Gallifrey Customs says, I'd actually like to take a moment to say that Star One Props and Al did an incredible job on the Meep pod. It would be very cool and exciting to see more printed models like that in the future. And Scott, as you know, Al has also worked on his own 3D printable accessory, hasn't he? Scott, if you would be happy for us to inform people about your comment, and I'll go for that.
Yeah, the meat pod was just a bit of fun, but it seemed like a good thing to kind of do as a freebie. And Nick has his own shop and stuff, and he does stuff. So this was a little collaboration where we said, well, if you want a really top end one, by the way, and I mean top end, there is nobody that finishes stuff like Nick does, like next level. But yeah, speak to him.
I must sort out to
the one we gave away was the one we wanted to give away. But yes, we're working on some other stuff and would like to continue that.
I must get one as well to put my Meep in. So Scott has done extended arms for the new 14th Doctor.
He did,
which you can 3D print, and you helped him with that, Al, didn't you? So they fit
perfectly. Only in so much as we had a little chit chat every now and again, and I gave him an idea, and he tried it, and he said, "That's rubbish. It doesn't work. I'll do it the way I was originally intending," and he did it, and it was it was really good. So it worked out really well. But they looked absolutely.
It's really cool. Yeah, I got to get you to do me a pair, Scott, at some point. I've just realised that people can't see all of my screen here, can they? And I'm positioned quite poorly in my frame. But
wait,
I have
1 second. I can fix that for you. How's that?
There was a really good question up there that I probably can't answer, or I can answer, but I can. I can answer.
Is it this one?
Yes.
From Liam. Sorry, Liam.
Liam. Sort of dodged that because I wasn't sure what the answerability would be.
We just had to consult with our legal team on that one before we got round to it. So
the answer is, I mean, yeah, scanning's it doesn't seem like it, but scanning's relatively recent. We kind of started it with the Matt Smith era, but prior to that, CAD had been used for a couple of things like Daleks and anything that was sort of semi-geometric. I think it's fair to say. But scanning technology has marched on really well. In terms of bad experiences, not really. It's usually technical stuff. So let me very quickly, if you guys don't mind, I'll take everybody through the basics.
Carry on, Sunshine. I'll just take a step back.
Is you get your subject, you tell them to hold the position as best they can. You tell them to focus on a particular spot on the wall, and you usually give them something. You say, like, focus on that picture there.
Look into my eye.
Hold the expression. And then what happens is somebody with what looks like a Lake 7 hairdryer prop walks round the person, and it fires out light, and it makes a sort of, in the old days it made a horrible clicking noise, but nowadays you don't really get so much of the noise. And what it does is it just bounces light off the subject, and the light bounces off, and it builds a 3D picture, and the software inside is clever, and it kind of stitches everything together and gives you your best pass. It doesn't give you a perfect. Have you ever seen one of those programs where they've like been scanning the jungle with LiDAR and showing buildings that existed underneath the forest canopy and stuff like that? It gives you a very good interpretation, but it's not perfect. Which is why when you watch things like Tested with Adam Savage and stuff like that, and he has a scan done and then it gets immediately output and it looks a bit shonky, that's the reason. They're not perfect. So what Andrew, Teal and Ed do is they then take that data and they clean it up, and but essentially what we've given them is a framework of very accurate readings to work on, and they're cleaning up that image. So that's the way it works. The thing that can go wrong is talent, the actor, moving. I will name my top three would be probably, in fact, top four would be Ncuti, Millie, Michelle Gomez, Joe Martin. Absolutely fantastic. Really good. I mean, just super. Michelle Gomez was, I think, probably the best scan we ever did.
Really?
She was just brilliant. She came in and we were in this tiny little room, which normally is not a good thing, and she just held that pose, and she held it with the expression. She did a couple of different ones for us, and it was absolutely wicked. So she did really well. Ones that went wrong, Capaldi, the first Peter Capaldi.
I remember you telling us about that. Yeah.
Awful. And that was purely. So when you get to scan, it's usually because they've got talent, which is what you call the actors. So the talent are in doing
the talent. Else.
The talent are in doing. So when we scanned Matt Smith, he'd just come off filming, Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS. When we
Jenna, Coleman,
she came in, same thing. It's when you get them. Peter Capaldi had literally just, I think, done his first regeneration scene with his with the red lapels and stuff. And they did a photography session before we got to scan him. And what they were getting him to do was kind of like flip the coat out so you could see the lining. And he was kind of like, oh no, I was flipping the coat out. But it ended up translating into a dreadful scan. Absolutely dreadful. And it wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault at all. What we should have done is kind of just managed him better and said, look, we can't kind of have that kind of pose. But we kind of thought, well, we can probably get away with it. So the head scan and everything was perfect, but we did a body pose scan. And we realized it was wrong and it did not look good. We presented it to the BBC. I think it's a hard one to remember, but whatever happened, we kind of got it passed. Then we did some corrective action, and this is when we were doing the 3 3/4 inch figures, and then we did some corrective action on that figure, and I remember getting the first shot, and it's the only figure, it's literally the only figure that I've carried through production, and I've looked at it and gone, this is not getting approved. And I sent it into the BBC, and I got a phone call about a day later, and she said, we can't approve this. And I went,
nightmare.
I don't blame you. Basically, it's 30 grand down the tube, and a case of start again.
Wow.
And it was completely redone. And what was interesting when we redid it, and when we did the subsequently 5-inch figure, was that essentially was back to the old technique of we'll do the sculpt, and they actually sculpted the entire body for the 5-inch figure and for the little, and it looked much better. But yeah, that scan went horribly wrong. Horribly wrong.
Yes, yeah. I remember you saying about that. Yeah, but maybe there'll be another 12 at some point to come out.
Well, everybody wants a slightly longer hair version, which I get, and I think they also want the waistcoat or the jumper version as well. So yeah.
I have a couple of questions from Twitter that I'd like to read out. So someone called Star One Props. I never heard of them.
I've heard of them. They sound like a right
shady, like hogging all the channels, is there?
Shady character. Beep the Meep has taken over Earth and demands tribute in the form of dessert. Each of us must present him with our finest sweet treat. The person who disappoints his galactic taste buds the most will be jettisoned into space. What dessert do you offer to appease the Meep?
First, I would ask for clarity. Are we talking sweets and chocolate, or are we talking actual pudding? Because it's very, or are we across the board with that one?
I think you can go with whatever.
Yeah.
I would present him with jelly babies, because I think they are a universal.
You think they're universally?
They're universally
enjoyed.
I think the Doctor has proved that all species enjoy jelly babies. Maybe
interesting.
Maybe not the Khaleds, in fairness, but everyone else.
I would go for cheesecake.
What flavour cheesecake?
Any of it. It's just good. It's all good. Maybe something with peanut butter in it or something.
Oh, see, now when you said cheesecake, I'm thinking like key lime pie or lemon cheesecake, that kind of tarty, citrusy. But then you killed it with peanut butter. See, there's a difference, mate. There's a complete difference.
New York.
If only you'd known that cheese is highly poisonous to the meep.
There you go.
It's like I'm out of here.
And he has a peanut allergy.
Yes, it's gone into anaphylactic shock.
But I would save the world by doing that.
You would, and we would be very grateful to you for it.
No, actually, that's true. That's true.
So,
yeah. Very good. Solve two problems.
Two problems with one cake there, yeah. Paul, what would you proffer?
Oh, me? I like this one. I'm going to go with this one from JMHC, actually, JHC, who says unlimited rice pudding. There you go. Because that's in universe. Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I love it. Yes, that. But to be fair, I'd probably actually just go for a custard flan in the face and then do a massive runner. Yeah. Because it's just got to be done sometimes.
Whovian life.
I just can't resist that sort of thing.
Slapstick. Maybe fish fingers and custard. That's
quite a good idea.
I've just got another question here from Blue Bear over on Twitter. He says he can't make tonight, but he says, what's one thing that first got you into Doctor Who? Was it family viewing or monsters or peer pressure, peer interest, sorry, he said. For me, it was Tom Baker's Doctor, completely non-standard manner for a hero, and the sci-fi tech with the TARDIS and things. So we sort of talked about that a little bit before, but Al, let's hear from you on that. It's always good to get someone's Who origin.
Same. I remember a title sequence. It was always a title sequence for me. Less so nowadays, but my day it was John Pertwee disappearing down that time tunnel with the slightly haunting. Slightly at the time it seemed as a kid slightly uncomfortable music because there was nothing else like it. And again the Tom Baker music I kind of tuned in religiously because every week you didn't quite know where you were going, and it was, and I was watching Planet of Evil the other day. And
brilliant!
Some of this stuff is just so edgy, and the music, it's funny. The Planet of Evil was kind of like doom 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 doom, and then somebody will come in with a maraca, and it'll be kind of like a
Dudley
rat
Simpson's
snake,
finest.
kind of. And then the monster arrives, and it's kind of like.
I was an electronically represented monster, wasn't it? It was some kind of weird technology that they had at the time.
Evil, with the singular exception of the Oculoid tracker, which
come on, I love that. That's brilliant.
I like it. It's the 1974 equivalent of the or 75 equivalent of the a drone. But it's
yes.
Launch the Oculoid tracker.
The Oculoid tracker. Not the Oculoid tracker. Surely not. Are we that desperate? Yes, launch it. I don't care what happens.
You overlook so much. I was watching it, and I watched the ship land, and I thought, God, the spaceship. The spaceship's not terrible. And then they land, and I thought, God, that's a massive set. That must have been about 3 stories. Lowered the landing ramp.
The spaceship.
A couple of bungee cords that contact with it, and I was like, you might just have ruined. Now, and here's a question for viewers out there.
For viewers,
so the space disposal system in the Marestran ship, which slides people out into space to get rid of them, looks very like the exact same system that Harrison Chase used in the Seeds of Doom.
Seeds of Doom.
To send people into the compost crusher. It's very similar. I have a suspicion that much like Morbius's, because obviously I don't know if everybody realizes in Morbius, there's some big buttresses that come down to sort of couches, and they've been covered in sort of mosaics, and they look really good. But actually, if you go back a couple of episodes, you'll see that those are on the Ark in Revenge of the Cybermen. So,
hey, why check out a decent set?
Yeah.
No model.
Exactly.
I just want to comment here. The Toymaker Reviews has said strawberry cheesecake, which is an acceptable offering if there was nothing else available to the meat. The Lone Dalek says if only I'd said jelly baby cheesecake, that would have been a good combo of ours there, Al. And Bundesrat says Starburst for the Star Beast. They missed a really good marketing opportunity there, didn't they? Thinking about it. Yeah. Liam Lovett says he likes the look of the 13 TARDIS behind me. What? This thing? Oh. So saucy.
That old thing.
Yes. And we're just going to move on.
Just move on from that one. What TARDIS? What are you talking about? I don't know.
I know nothing of the cheese.
I know nothing of this.
Scott singing Dugadoo plush when?
Singing what?
Dugadoo, that.
Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, I'll see it now. Yeah,
Dugadoo thing from Interstellar Song Contest.
Oh yeah. Good God, I forgot about that.
I'm going to go with
put that to the back of my mind, along with all the other horror stories.
If we couldn't get a Meep plush, we ain't getting a singing Dugadoo.
No, there's other things at the front of the queue.
Yes.
Than Dugadoo, I would say. Here's a good one actually from Whovian Life again. Are there going to be any CO exclusive Daleks anytime soon? Obviously, you can't answer that, but let's have a
actually. No.
Oh yes.
No.
I mean, we're covering Daleks pretty extensively in the B&M sets, I would say. So the chances and or reasoning behind doing any, this is where I got hoist on my own petard and people go, but you haven't done this Dalek and this Dalek and this Dalek. But if you mention the security drone, that is not a Dalek, so I'm never considering that as a Dalek, and it never is a Dalek.
That was my idea. It was recon Dalek, because I don't have one, and the drone one. Because they are, they are sexy bitches.
So the things. Recon Dalek is a Dalek. The security drones are not Daleks. And
you are right. But they look so nice.
Do they?
So nice.
We did, you know what? We did look at it. In fact,
yeah,
I've said a couple of times, is on my colleague's desk at work is a security drone Dalek in grey primer. We just never got it signed off, so it's sitting there, half and half. I think it would have been all right. I'd have liked to get it through and approved, if I'm honest, but I gave up after the sort of forced submission and somebody saying, "Oh, it doesn't look right," and I was like, "Fuck it."
Need to try harder, Al. Clearly,
but I'll have
be
a look,
more persuasive,
and then I'll decide for you. Okay.
Yeah. Run it past the team first. Me and Jeff, we'll give you our completely objective expert opinion.
Sorry, going back to the original question. No, not really, because until they sort of come back again with, like I say, Daleks have kind of ended up, sadly, to a degree, in the domain of B&M. And also with the new shape, there's limits on what we can do. So things like the Manhattan Daleks we can't currently do. That's one where I think things like the CAD stuff that Star One Props, Nick and I do, would possibly work quite well because we could design and create panels that you could print out and basically
Now
the only problem is, much like I'm into Ghostbusters and I've got some Ghostbusters stuff and I've got the Hasbro trap and stuff, and there's some mods you can do to that, and it involves dremeling it, and it's you can make it what you want, but it's never going back to the way you bought it. So much in the same way, we could give people panels to put on, but they would have to cut off those rear sections of a standard sort of new series Dalek. So it would be interesting to know, would people want that? If they do, we'll do it.
Let us know.
Let us know.
Scott's made a really good point here. Technically, when the Dalek mutant goes into the drones, they do become a form of Dalek.
Ish. Well, they do for 5 minutes before they get obliterated.
Because they're not made of Dalek produced material, are they? The casings they're produced on Earth.
Okay, so. I'll give you that. 7 out of 10. 6.
So, did anyone listening listen to last week's episode where we started talking Meep and then went off on a tangent talking about James Cameron films mostly, because I'd like to know what people think of Cameron's films. And also, Paul, did you see who's doing the next Bond film?
I did. Denis Villeneuve himself.
It's going to be Bond on the hunt for chili powder.
Shut up. You've never even seen that film. You cannot say anything about Dune at all because you'd never watched it. You got no idea what the film's about. And if you did, you wouldn't understand it anyway because you're too thick. You're a thicky thicko.
Thick head.
There you go. I mean that in an affectionate sense, obviously.
Yeah, you do.
But at least I've watched your thing with the blue people. So,
yes. You have. But your Heart of Stone meant it was lost on you.
How many times have I said to you, I enjoyed the second one. It's the first one that I fell asleep in. The first one. The second one I thought was all right. It was okay. I can look at it like that.
Staying quiet here for fear of upsetting.
But if you start going down the route of this in June, then you and me are finished, pal. That's the end of it, I'm telling you now. Unless you actually watch it first, and then I might actually take your opinion a little bit more seriously than I do now.
I will watch it. I do need to watch it.
You won't watch it, mate.
I will.
You won't.
I got 6 months before nothing else is important.
It's,
6 months until Fire and Ash. That's basically it, isn't it?
6 months till Fire and Ash.
And oh look, no one's responded to your shout out for James Cameron movies. Sorry, mate.
Screwed a lot of it.
Well, it was interesting. So what's interesting about the Bond one is I don't know what you guys feel. I am a big advocate of the Daniel Craig films, but I absolutely hated the last film.
No.
Absolutely detested.
It was great. I thought it was fine actually. I kind of liked it. I do enjoy the Craig films, but what I miss about the more recent about those Bond films is they're not very much fun. Like, you know, when you look at the Roger Moore films and even the Sean Connery films, really, I watched those as a kid, when I was like 7 years old, 10 years old, whatever. And you can't watch the Craig films at 7 years old, really.
No.
They're too dark, they're too gritty. They're probably really boring to somebody that sort of age as well.
Very good. I just really didn't like No Time to Die. It changed the entire character of.
Do you think?
From the books. Now, moving on and leaving
James says it was rather
the Villeneuve thing is.
I'm always going to champion No Time to Die because I love it. Sorry, Al, go on.
No, I think I was slightly disappointed at that announcement just because the guy I would have liked to have seen crack at it is Chris Nolan and his brother in terms of the writing.
Oh yeah, that could be fun. Yeah.
Chris Nolan, I think, is brilliant, and I think he would do a really good job. I like Denis Villeneuve. I like most of the stuff I've seen of his. I'm not sure he's got the edge or the humor for it.
Yes, he has.
Isn't he a bit Nolan? He's a bit emotionally cold.
Stop. Shush. 1 second before you both start going off on this road, right? He's a director, right?
Yes.
And yes, we don't even have a script yet. So there's no story, there's no script, there's no idea who's going to play Bond. So any of these things based on what Villeneuve has already done are really kind of just... it's just pulling stuff out of the air for now because there's nothing more solid than the fact that he's just been signed up for it. And in 2 years' time, he might actually split from them anyway and say, well, create the differences. And they still don't have an actor and they still don't have a script or a story. So everything is all on the story. I always go back to the fact that you can have the best director, you can have the best actor and everything and chuck tons and tons of money at it. But if your story is a pile of shit, it doesn't matter how much gold you put on it, it's still a piece of shit at the end of the day. So,
Paul, I'm not saying he will do a bad job. I'm saying if I had to pick somebody to have the first dibs, I would have picked Nolan because I think he's.
Nolan, I agree. Yeah, Nolan is
British
a cracking good actor
and
good
between him and
director,
his brother. Between him and his brother, he does action extraordinarily well, and
he really does. Yeah, I think
his stories are solid.
Yeah. I agree actually. I mean, except possibly they're very, very heavy. They're not. You kind of watch it. I mean, Dark Knight's a good example, right? I love the Dark Knights a bit, but I can only probably watch it once every 3 years. Because it takes that long for it to kind of just get out of my head and stop thinking about all the kind of moral weight of everything. It's not the sort of thing you could just. The second one, yeah, and I like the third one as well with with Bane, but
films.
I just think Bane. I remember laughing at that in the cinema. Fucking hell.
Well, that's because you just not in that place, Jeff. But I found
the Dark Knight. Unrelentingly bleak, and
it is unrelentingly bleak. Yeah, that's why I can't. It's not the sort of thing you'd put on for a happy Saturday afternoon watch, is it?
But
you've got to be in the mood for that, I think.
I've rarely wanted to walk out of a film.
That's the whole point of the Dark Knight is that Batman has terrorized the city to the point where at the start of the film the criminals are all cowering in the shadows and everyone thinks it's lovely, and you get the feeling Batman's about to sort of hang up his hat, and then here comes along a guy who doesn't play by any of those rules.
That's it,
he doesn't play by Batman's rules, and that whole thing of I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah,
And
the lines
damn
Joker
the
crosses in this. Yeah.
And that Michael Caine bit in the middle of like, yeah, every night we go along and we find the rubies by the river. And it's like, well, what did you do? And it's like, we burned the forest down.
Yeah.
Thing of like, they changed the rules. You got to change the rules. And that kind of villain, that's why the Ledger Joker is just so, because it's just like,
he was
shitballs, crazy.
But do you remember all the fuss beforehand? Everyone saying that, you know, Heath Ledger will never make a good Joker. Well, who the hell cast this? Why have they done that? Yeah. It's the end of Batman Forever, you know, and it just kind of shows how rubbish.
An example of casting against type.
Exactly.
Juxtapose that with Beryl Reid. So, you know.
But you know what? The main reason Ledger got onto that so well is because the story and the character is so strong within it. You know, because that story, the Dark, I mean, it is super strong. It's massively intense, and that character drives everything within, like you said. So going back to the Bond Villeneuve thing, you know, as long as we've got that kind of drive and that kind of solid narrative, I think Villeneuve will do a brilliant job of it. You know, and I think, you know, he's got the chops for it. I don't think he hasn't. You know, you look at things like.
He does. I think it's just it's the straying too far from Bond. I mean, if you've read the Bond books, you know what the character's like. You know, and more to the point, you know what Ian Fleming was like. I mean, Ian Fleming was a spy who basically shagged his way through the war, bedding high-level German officers' wives to get information about what was going on. His psych profile basically said, "You're a psychopath. He's either going to go shitballs off the edge, or he will be on our side."
Exactly. Yeah,
and he was on our side. And then he starts writing novels about a guy who is exactly that stereotype. He's a womanizing, drinking, balls to the wall guy who, you know, will push himself further than anybody else to get the job done. That is why I do not particularly like No Time to Die, because by the time you get to No Time to Die, Bond's got a girlfriend, a kid, and the Scooby-Doo gang around behind him, and it's not Bond. And I know that. That's my whole thing. Why
I get exactly where you're coming from. I think you're right, except that, you know, it's not the Bond that we ever saw in the novels, but who's to say it wouldn't have been the Bond we saw if Fleming hadn't died when he died and carried on writing?
Bond's whole thing, and I think the bit they got right in Spectre and the bit they got right in Skyfall is Bond's love is England, right? And I'm a Scot, so I'm telling you, so Bond's love, and he's a Scotsman, half Scot, half Swiss, but his love is England, or at least the United Kingdom. That is his first and only love. That's what drives him. So to then suddenly give him, as I say, the girlfriend, the kid, and he gives everything up for them.
Yeah.
It's not James Bond. I'm sorry, it's not. It was a
That's
nice.
Right. No, you're entitled to your opinion.
It was an interesting experiment, but it was wrong to do, and it messed up the end of the Craig era for me massively.
That's fair enough. I can give you that, except to say that it was probably the only place that they could take Bond, given where they pushed him previously. We just never seen Bond in that sort of position.
Yeah, and
so it's almost kind of saying, what would he do if he was kind of railroaded into being that guy?
Yeah, that is one criticism that we do have of the Bond film of the Craig films is, you know, he starts off in Casino Royale and then he wants to leave. He leaves halfway through and then he joins back again. And then you get to the second film, which I actually quite like.
I love it. Your Quantum of Solace.
I love that film.
Love it. Yeah, really it's massively underrated.
He's in the Secret Service. Then you get to Skyfall and he leaves the Secret Service. And then you get to Spectre and he's, you know, it's that flip-flopping between I'm in the Secret Service, I'm not in the Secret Service. And again, that's not Bond. Bond was always like, you know, that's the reason he works as a character, is because he is so borderline psycho in theory.
Yeah.
Or at least not empathic, that he works because he can be totally dispassionate about what needs to be done.
But this is what was so good about the Craig films, because they kind of put pressure on that aspect of the character. It was like, firstly, to kind of show, well, what happens when you're allowed to kind of go with that? and then you get Vesperlin dying, and then it's pushed even further in Quantum of Solace. And what's her name's character, where she ends up kind of covered in oil on the bed.
Yes.
You know, and he's so dismissive of, I can't remember her blooming name now, but she was she was really good, and she was like, you know, a nobody sort of character, and she died for no reason, you know, just because he was there. He made her death possible, and he made it happen, and even indirectly. And M is constantly putting pressure on him to not be that guy. And the more she puts the pressure, the more he drives into that corner, and the stress is all kind of, you know, they force him to do some crazy shit, you know. And I love that aspect, that they're actually showing where that goes in terms of what happens to Bond and the people around him, and who gets sucked into that black hole of violence and destruction. You know, and then through Skyfall with M's death, he starts to come out the other side of it. So it's almost, by the time we get to No Time to Die and he's found a family and everything else, so it's almost like he's achieving a point of redemption, and almost like a kind of reward for having gone through that journey as a character to be the man that he now is, not who Ian Fleming wrote, but who he now actually is. And then, of course, it all goes to shit, and the only way that he can stop it all happening goes back to what you were saying, his love of Queen, King and country, and he sacrifices himself. I mean, that is it? I think that's just the perfect end to a Bond. It's brilliant.
What?
I haven't seen the film. He sacrifices himself. Don't need to watch it now.
No Time to
You got to watch it, mate. He does. He puts himself out there.
That's 3 years, and that's long enough. So
yeah. Anyway, let's move on from Bond. Because Jeff's getting bored now, and he's starting to talk about Mission Impossible in the chat.
I've been silenced by Whovian Life saying he's only watched the first Avatar film. Shocking.
I'm surprised he actually got through it. Actually, it's surprised he actually watched it.
There's quite a few votes for Johnny English.
I love Johnny English. Actually, who said that? Tom said that as well. There we go. Love Johnny English.
Lone Dalek. There's a few people in there. Yeah.
Do you know what's really great? As an aside, actually, in the unofficial Bond movie, Never Say Never Again, Sean Connery, Rowan Atkinson turns up as an MI6 agent. he's just completely Johnny English in that. It's brilliant. I love it. Yeah. John English in an actual Bond film. It's another underrated Bond film, actually.
I'm going to throw out, if you haven't seen True Lies, that is a great spy film.
That's a good
yeah, I do like that. It
disappeared for a long time. It wasn't on DVD or Blu-ray, and was very, very rarely on TV, much like The Abyss. But recently, the 4K remaster appeared, and they're both out there again now. So I've seen people like discovering The Abyss for the first time, because it's literally like almost impossible to find it for the last 2 decades. And now they're seeing it and discovering how good it is. Jack says, I did fall asleep during the second Avatar movie, I'm not going to lie.
The second one?
What am I doing with these people? I
fell asleep during the first one. The second one I thought was all right.
It's because it had no chili powder for you.
There was some meaty comments back at there.
Stop with the bloody chili powder, will you? Go and watch the movie and then come back and start slagging it off about chili powder. See what I've got to put up with, people, honestly.
There were some good comments. Okay, let me go to a question.
Go on then. So this...
Sorry, go on.
Oh, no, you go, Al.
No, you beat me to it.
Oh, okay. No, now you throw me. Birdman says, if there was one figure from the last 20 years that you could go back and change some way, what would it be?
Oh, it's very similar to the question from Whovian Life that I was going to ask, which was which one would you re-release? If there was one figure that if I could go back and re-release, or was it improve?
Either. Improve.
One
I guess, actually.
figure.
Change. Heard boring. Sam.
One figure.
Done.
That's
Jeff done.
Heard boring.
Jeff exits the room.
That's
outraged at Avatar dissing.
It is, mate. Honestly,
you see?
Yes.
Go on, I'm sorry.
My love.
I'll tell you, and it ties back to.
Thank you, Scott.
It ties back to an earlier question. The Eighth Doctor, I don't think either figure has been quite as good as it could be. I didn't like the first one. It looks really solid and kind of uninteresting. And the second figure, which is the Night of the Doctor figure, we did scan Paul McGann, and that scan didn't go brilliantly. So I think that one could be re-released and maybe made better. Because I must admit, I love, of all the audios, I think Paul McGann audios are the ones I enjoy the most.
Oh, yeah, totally agree.
Talking of audio,
go on.
You know what's coming out next Thursday?
Oh, that's not where I thought you were going with that. I thought you were going with the question about the Big Finish releases and about the Brotherhood of the Daleks one. But yes, I do know. Would it be the 13th Doctor, Jeff?
It might be.
It might be.
What can I say? Hands up. If her performance is, I think her 30-second performance in the last episode of Doctor Who was probably better than anything she's done before.
That's because Russell wrote her.
We seem to have lost Al there for a second. Not really sure what happened.
I think I've been chopped off.
You just disappeared as well, Paul.
That's because I pressed the wrong button.
Oh yeah.
Was that deliberate then?
Don't know what you're talking about. Technical issues, Al.
We'll get together to discuss that one when we can listen to it. I'm going to have to stay up late on the Wednesday night to listen because I'm working on the Thursday, and I won't be able to listen to it whilst driving with my team.
So I am actually looking forward to that coming out because I think if the Big Finish guys do what they normally do, they will make her astounding. I'm also really excited to see if they give her any costume variants because I'd love to do something other than that bloody awful dinner lady outfit that she wore.
You always do the dark coat thing variant that she had in.
We got that.
Did we get that?
Could do. So actually, here's a question from Sci Figure Photography. On the assumption there'll be a Vortex 13, would it come with longer Series 12 hair? And I think a fezzed jacketless would be good. Yeah. And Sci Figure Photography also says, would you ever be open to doing customer surveys on what people would like to see? But I think that probably goes back to what you said about when you ask, on Gallifrey, for example, you get, hundreds of different comments. I've just seen, hold on 1 second while you ponder that.
Potentially something coming up where we will be throwing something out there, and it won't be crowdfunded, but it will be potentially similar to something like that, where it's like, if you're interested, you're going to register, and if you're not interested, then don't. And it will live or die. And that will be a very, very interesting day when that comes to see.
Liam says,
my suspicion is we won't get the alignment that people are
interested.
Liam says a ball jointed 13. Predictably, I'd say yes, please, because I'd like to be able to do the pose that she does with her Sonic, because you can do some great stuff with 14 with his arms. That's what I'm saying there.
You're going for that, are you?
I am going for that, yeah. There was something else that was up here earlier. I just would like to say as well, everyone, I'm really enjoying this. It's good, but
it's good. You heard it from Jeff.
It is really good. We can talk about anything, not just figures, as well, if you'd like.
Kept that quiet.
Yeah.
Well, we put it out on Twitter, didn't we, or X?
Yeah.
And we got a whole bunch of questions all about figures, and it's like, well, hold on a minute, there's more to the Doctor Who universe than just figures. Although, to be fair, we do have the Figure King with us, so it does kind of make sense, really.
We've got more to offer. Where did it go? Oh, Tom Chapman said, someone check Jeff's blood pressure. It's more my cholesterol, Tom, that needs to be
that was when
worried about.
Our stuff was going on. Yeah, there it is. Found it.
So if they ever did a Doctor Who sort of stroke Avatar crossover or borrowed from that ethos, would that, in your mind, Jeff, would that be a good thing, or would that be sacrosanct to declaration of war?
What, to cross them over?
To do an homage, not a crossover as an official one, but an homage as in if they, they discover the Doctor arrives and discovers a bunch of people in little pods that are sort of living another life on a planet that are populated by very similar looking green people, say.
It would be sort of fun, but I think I would want to keep them separate, I think, and not have any, kind of references like that. They're my two big loves, and I like them to stay separate. Yeah, I think.
I'd agree with that. It's like having a Star Trek Doctor Who crossover. I'd keep them separate. They're two totally different things.
And I know you're not saying a mashup, Al, but sort of a homage type thing. Yeah.
No, that's what I meant. Yeah. If it was inspired by, or in the way that I'm trying to think of an analogy that works, but in the way that, say, Alien has, or Seeds of Doom is an homage to The Thing, and that's
that would I probably would be more open to that, actually, in fairness. But yeah, I am banging on about it again. I do love it, but I think keeping them separate. But if you think I'm insufferable now, wait till December.
I'm going on holiday.
Liam says he's with me. He thinks 13 with ball jointed arms would make that figure pop. Then you could do her iconic Sonic pose. Yeah, I agree.
I'd like to do another 13. I'll be honest. I would. I think I would like.
Here's one. What costume would you want to do for Belinda if you had a chance to release her from Whovian life? Has she had that many costumes?
Not that many. In my mind, I'd like her to have the one from the well, but I suspect
the spacesuit.
Pick that as the atypical one. I think that's just because that episode I thought was fabulous.
Yeah.
The yellow dress, I think, makes her look astoundingly good. That was
that was cool.
Loved that. A lot of people seem to think about the jumpsuits. I'm less enamored with those, but I think that's the more common look.
Yeah, do you prefer working on something that is more interesting in its design than just, like Graham, for example, in his jacket and jeans? It's like, for me, sometimes with figures from anything, whether it's a Funko Pop or whatever, I prefer things in, a costume rather than just, jeans and a shirt, for example. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just not as visually interesting.
Yeah, I do completely. I mean, I was dicking around with the Revenge. Well, I mean, there's no secret they're coming because certain people leaked it, so I'm going to quite happily tell people about it. But I was messing around with them on my desk this week and just playing around with some little changes. And it's funny, when you get a second go at something, funnily enough, you get more finicky about it. So I've had more conversations about Revenge Cybermen than probably anything else, because certain things have really annoyed me, like the pipe on the right leg doesn't quite engage, and I had to go back twice and go, you haven't fixed the pipe going in on the right leg. It's still sitting slightly out. It doesn't fit properly, and there's scratches on the back of the leg. So it's stuff like that. And then there's the silver. I mean, they just look freaking fantastic. The silver, the level of shine on these boys is ridiculous.
Shiny.
Oh, that's a good idea to make a review.
Coloured the eyes, so and you go back and you do a bit more checking about what's going on. So you notice that the gun pipe on the top of the head, that is a sort of gunmetal colour. It's not silver. The eye mesh isn't silver. It's a darker colour, and the mouth is, I sort of asked them to go back and relook at the mouth, and that's been coloured dark as well. So it's got, and then there's some little sort of greeny gold highlight bits on the chest unit, and then on the front of the chest unit, the assumption is that it's a black mesh. It's not. It's a sort of, again, it's a gunmetal sort of grey. Part of that comes from the fact that new DVDs that are higher quality have been released, but obviously the first iteration of any figure is done from the Paintmaster, and you tend to question it less. So when the Paintmaster turns up and it's got, black panel on the front, you kind of go, okay, that's fine, that must be right, and you don't question it. And then when you get a second go at it, you kind of go, well, that's not black. That's gunmetal grey. That's just a different version of silver. So, these guys look absolutely stunning. So yeah.
What's Jack says, the B&M SWDs are what I'm going to be buying a lot of soon. The what now?
SWD.
What's the SWDs?
Special window displays, I suspect, is what he's talking about.
Star Wars droids.
So what now? What did you say?
On all I can say on special window displays is we went back to the original special window display and we made sure that the special window display looks really good.
Ah.
Special weapons Daleks.
Special weapons Daleks. There you go. It's obviously getting late now.
So Paul's got to go in a minute because it's nearly his bedtime.
It really is.
Morgan says, hello everyone, glad to be here. If we could choose one doctor, one companion and a setting, what would you choose and why?
Oh, interesting.
One doctor as figures?
Let's go with for a story, I guess, because of setting.
I'd go Matt Smith, Clara, and a haunted. I say haunted, and I know they've been there, but a true supernatural story. I think it's weirdly, it's the one area that Doctor Who shied away from. They kind of tried to do it with Villa Diodata, and then they kind of went Cybermen, and then they tried to do it with
Hyde, and
Matt
it was
Smith, and then it became the woman jumping through time. I think if all gloves are off, and I guess it goes back to things like Damon's, which feels like an atypical story from the classics. But if all, like I say, if all the rules are out the window and all gloves are off and all these gods exist and all the other stuff, I would like to see a really, really shit scary supernatural Doctor Who.
Well,
and I'd 100% go Matt Smith and 100% go Clara, because I just think they were such a good team.
Yes.
They didn't get quite long enough together.
No, they didn't. Okay, I will take that, and I'm going to say 13 in something scary with an undetermined companion that perhaps I could write something that fits that bill.
It's not Cluedo.
No.
Well, watch this space.
Yes, watch this space. I better find out what's happening with that audio, actually.
You're doing something creative there.
Yes, I will send it to you, actually, to cast your eyes over. And Paul, we have something else in a state
bubbling
of
around.
completion, don't we?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
That's something I'd love to do with a bunch of the guys on here, as in fans, and you guys, is go and do like a haunted house somewhere in
That'd be fun.
London. Let's just go and
I'll tell you what.
Let's just go and spend a night on on like a ghost tour of somewhere.
Oh yeah, that would be
scary.
good. I did one in Edinburgh
I've
years ago.
done the Edinburgh one, and that was really good.
Really good, yeah. And I saw something on Insta the other day. It was Neil Patrick Harris, and there's a place in London called Phantom Peak, and it's mysterious town in London, and it looks like a kind of immersive game escape room type place, and they'd obviously spent a ton of money on it because it looks incredible. So that looks like quite good fun. So, Phantom Peak. So yeah, have a look at that. It's
that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it looked really cool. Yeah, yeah, that might be worth doing. Yeah. So do we need to say goodbye to people? Because Paul,
do you want to say goodbye to people?
Well,
I've got an early start in the morning, guys. Yeah, so sorry, I do need to shoot off.
Yeah, I've got a long.
I'm driving 200 miles tomorrow on 3 hours sleep, so that's not going to be good.
I'm off to see the Fratellis tomorrow. Yes. I'm so excited.
Interesting.
And I'm filming late tomorrow, so yes, perhaps we will have to say sayonara for now.
Indeed.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
What was that?
TTFN. Oh, Scott says my friend created Phantom Peak. Right, we're going to have a chat about that.
Oh, there you go. There's lots to do there, isn't there?
Looks amazing. What would be an interesting podcast, Tom? You have to comment quickly.
I was saying I'd watch from afar. I don't know whether she's meaning the ghost stuff.
Yeah.
Come along, get join in. Come on.
Come on and shit yourself.
What? Won't necessarily go that far.
That's optional. Right, Paul's it's like the Oscars.
I'm playing the theme music now to get him out of it.
Right.
See, now this is why we should start earlier. If we'd have started early instead of waiting for Jeff to ask around and everything else, would have been alright. But
you tell my kids that, yeah.
Yeah, I will, mate. Don't you worry. Listen, guys, it's been emotional as always. Thanks for commenting, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and stay tuned. Please subscribe. Don't forget to do that. We need as many listeners as we possibly can get.
Tell your friends. Tell your friends. I'm going to shout over. Turn it down. And we'll see you all soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
There we go. Let's let the music play out. Ciao.
Bye.
TTFN. Bye-bye.